In today's video, we're going to continue our NHL 2019-2020 prediction series, and we're predicting the NHL standings for the Pacific Division. I'll rank my teams for you coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned today, we're going to continue our NHL prediction series. We're looking at the Pacific Division, and I'm going to give you my predictions on how these teams are going to finish for the coming year and which teams are going to get into the playoffs. Well, this is the last video in this series. We've already completed the Atlantic, the Metropolitan, and the Central Division. If you haven't caught those videos, go back and check them out. This is the last one in the series, and coming up after this, tomorrow, we're going to have a full playoff prediction video. We're going to give you the predictions from me on who's going to make the playoffs, and I'm going to give you my bracket all the way through, along with a Stanley Cup winner prediction. So stay tuned for that coming up here very shortly. So let's jump in now to my predictions for the Pacific Division. Of course, keep in mind, like I always say, this is just my opinion. There is no really right and wrong answers here in my opinion. Let me know if your thoughts are different, what you think these teams are going to do in the regular season and how they're going to finish, and we can discuss further in the comment section. Finishing in last place for me is the Los Angeles Kings. Now, the Kings are a team who really bottomed out last year, and I really don't see them getting a whole lot better. The team is largely the same team coming back for the coming year. They really haven't made a whole lot of changes. They've added a few guys on the blue line like Hutton and Ryan. They get rid of Dion Phaneuf. Really, the blue line might be a little bit better overall, but they still have the same group up front. They still have the same goaltenders. Goaltending, to me, could very well be a strong point if Jonathan Quick can stay healthy, but of course, that's been an issue for the last couple of years as well. We'll see if Drew Doughty can bounce back and have a better season, earning that $11 million contract, and last year really wasn't the greatest for him as well. But I do think this team is a team that's got to go through some more transitions, some more rebuilding. They have a lot of big-time contracts from older players that are really tying them down and really holding them back from really doing a proper rebuild here. They do have an excellent group of prospects. They've one of the deepest prospect pools, though, in the NHL that they've accumulated over the last couple of years. And as these guys get themselves into the lineup, this team is going to start to turn things around. It's just not going to be quite there yet. I think it's going to be another couple of years before all these guys become regulars and have much more impact on this franchise before they can really turn this thing around and get things going in an upward trajectory. Next up in 7th place, I have another California team. That's the Anaheim Ducks. Now, the Ducks are another team that really didn't do the greatest last year. They bought out longtime player Corey Perry. Of course, he ended up at the Dallas Stars. They do have a couple of other longtime veterans that are not going to be playing this year as well, including Ryan Kessler and Patrick Eaves, who have both been declared to be out for the entire season with injuries that they cannot seem to recover from. They very well could have both of their careers coming to an end. Patrick Eaves is in the final year of his contract as well, so I think it's probably fair to say that his time in Anaheim is definitely done, and after the time he's missed over the last 2 or 3 years, I think it's pretty fair to say his career is all but over as well. Ryan Kessler's battled a lot of hip injuries the last couple of years, and where he's sitting on a full year after missing about a half a season last year, I think it's probably fair to say he likely does not return in the future as well. And then you really, other than that, you have Ryan Getzlaf as one of the other longtime veterans still in there. He's still been able to play, be a little bit more healthy, and be a fair bit more productive. So he's their captain. He's still leading this team, but it's really into the hands of the younger players now that try to take this team forward. And I think it's just going to take those younger players some more time to really build up their experience level and their skills to make that happen. They have a lot of great prospects, including guys like Max Comtois, Sam Steele, Troy Terry, Max Jones. They have a pretty decent blue line with guys like Lindholm and Manson and Fowler, and they have a great goaltender in John Gibson, one of the top in the NHL. Doesn't always have the best stats because of the team in front of him, but Gibson is a big reason why they get most of their W's on just about any given night, and I really think for the most part he's underrated and underappreciated. He's really a terrific goaltender who's locked up long-term in Anaheim. It will be part of their solution once things get turned around, but overall I just don't see them making a whole lot of progress over last year and still finishing near the bottom of this division. Next up in 6th place, I've got the Edmonton Oilers. Now, the Oilers are a team that's gone through a lot of changes. We saw a head coach and a GM from last year, both gone. We have a new regime in Edmonton with Ken Holland leading the way as general manager. Of course, we got Dave Tippett behind the bench. You get hopefully Connor McDavid that's fully healthy and recovered, ready to go here when the NHL season gets underway. Of course, they got Leon Draisaitl, who's one of the better players in the NHL as well. They did manage to pull off a big trade with the Flames throughout the offseason, acquiring James Neal in exchange for Milan Lucic. So we'll see how that works out. I think James Neal can bounce back and help this team. I think there's a lot of question marks on how they're going to get scoring from the wingers, though. The wings are certainly an area of the team where there was a lot of spots up for grab battling through training camp. So we'll see how these guys can do. There's a lot of inexperience now on that blue line. Obviously, they're going to start Evan Bouchard in the minors as well. The goaltending's a little bit questionable as well. Mike Smith comes over from Calgary to join Mikko Koskinen. Smith, really, I'm not sure about him anymore. I don't have the confidence like I used to, and Koskinen's not a guy I really have much faith in either. So the goaltending and the defense of this team is going to let them down. I do think your top players are going to perform well and be able to get some victories for this team, but with question marks in the forward group, you get question marks in the blue line, question marks on the net for me. I just don't see them moving any higher up the ladder here. I mean, the top talent will get them so far, and that's about it. So until they make more moves and continue the rebuild and more of their younger players being able to step up and take bigger roles, I just don't see the Oilers really moving forward. Next up in 5th place, we get the Vancouver Canucks, who are a team who had a pretty decent offseason, but they're also a team that's pretty tight up against the cap, and yet they haven't really accomplished a whole lot yet. They haven't been a playoff team in the last number of years. So really with the cap situation, I'm not real thrilled with where they're at. I'd like to see them manage things a little bit differently. But all that said, I think on paper and on the ice, we're going to see a stronger Vancouver Canuck team. I think they're going to be close to being a playoff team, depending on how the playoffs stack up between the two divisions. I think they'll at least be in the conversation. I'm not going to go as far as to say they're going to be in it, but I think they're at least going to be hanging around and being a team who can contend for a spot at least till closer to the end of the season. They certainly made some decent additions to the forward group with guys like Michael Furlan and JT Miller. I'm kind of a little disappointed they gave up a first-round pick to get Miller, but I do like him on their roster. I think he's going to be a great winger for Bo Horvat. I mean, Horvat's a great center iceman, likely going to be named captain if he hasn't been already before this video is recorded. As I mentioned in the other Central Division prediction video, this video is being recorded about a week ahead before it's posted. So if anything I mentioned in this video at all is different, or there's been any kind of trades or roster adjustments, that would be the reason why. So I apologize for that if there has been any changes, but I do expect Bo Horvat to be the captain of this Canucks team by the time this season starts, and having some consistent wingers for him is going to be a huge help. So far in training camp, he's been playing a lot with Miller and Pearson, and they look pretty decent. So we'll see if that can work out for them. Of course, you get Brock Besser, Elias Pettersson. You get a full season now, Quinn Hughes on the blue line, which is going to be a big help. They also added Tyler Myers and Jordy Ben. So the blue line is certainly going to be improved. Goaltending is a question mark. We'll see if Jacob Bergstrom can continue playing as well as he did last year. I think he did okay. Thatcher Demko is still their up-and-coming goalie of the future. We'll see how much playing time he gets and how much improvement he can make as well, and see how much impact there is. But overall, I do see this Canucks team making a lot of progress. I'm just not sure they can get up any higher than 5th place for the coming year. Next up in 4th place, we have the upstart Arizona Coyotes. I think are going to be in the mix for a playoff spot, at least right up until late in the season. It's going to be tough for them to get in, but I do think it's possible that they're going to be contending at least. Now, we saw the Coyotes make one of the bigger trades of the offseason with the Penguins acquiring Phil Kessel in exchange for Alex Galchenyuk and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. So there's a pretty significant trade. It gets him a big-time scorer, but the only thing is, my concern with Phil Kessel in this role is that he's more of a complementary piece. He proved in Toronto that he can be a productive player, but he's not the main guy. He's a complementary piece, which is why he allowed the Penguins to be that much stronger when he joined that roster and helped them put them over the top to win back-to-back championships. But in Toronto, he was a productive player, but when he was really leaned upon as being the guy, they didn't really accomplish a lot, and I don't see the Coyotes being a whole lot different than what those teams were in Toronto during the Kessel era of that team. So really, overall, they did make some decent moves. They also added Carl Soderberg. They certainly have some decent goaltending with Kumper and Ranta. We'll see how Ranta's health can do this year. That'd be a big question mark as well. And I do think they're going to carry off a lot of last year's momentum, and I think they're going to be battling for a playoff spot. Just not quite sure they can get there just yet. Next up in 3rd place, I have the San Jose Sharks. Now, the Sharks are a team with a lot of veterans, obviously a pretty strong forward group. They have some significant changes, though. They did lose captain Joe Pavelski. They lost forward Jonas Donskoy off their blue line because of the Karlsson contract and the cap situation. They had to say goodbye to a couple defensemen like Ryan and Braun. So they're certainly weaker on defense overall, but at the same time, the guys that do have are going to be eating up so much ice time, it didn't make sense for them to be paying those type of other defensemen that kind of money that they were earning. That makes sense here to let Karlsson and Burns and Vlasic really play the bulk of the ice time, make the bulk of the money. They get Brendan Dillon as a number 4, and then your 5-6 spots are going to be cheaper contracts who are not going to get a whole lot of playing time. There's not going to be much left over off those big minute munchers playing ahead of them, but their overall blue line is pretty decent. Lots of experience there, lots of offensive output. Vlasic kind of gives them some defensive stability. Of course, up front, they get the returning Joe Thornton up there still. Logan Couture is the new captain. Younger guys like Meyer and Hurdle and LeBanc can continue to evolve and continue to be a big part of this team. I do think the loss of Joe Pavelski is going to be felt among the team, not so much in the leadership area. Even though he was a great captain, they have a lot of leaders on that team that are not going to miss that too much. They're going to miss that production. He's been a 30 to 40 goal scorer consistently, and that is really going to hurt not having an offense in their lineup. And then that secondary scoring, like a guy like Jonas Donskoy was providing, is gone as well. So their younger players need to continue to evolve and step up, which I think they can do, which is going to help maintain what they had. I just don't see them really getting better and stronger right now. So a third place finish, I think, is the best they can do, especially with some inconsistent goaltending with Jones and Dell. We'll see if either of them can kind of be more consistent for the coming year, but they've certainly had their ups and downs and struggles over the last season, their season and a half as well. So we'll see. Goaltending is a bit of a question mark that does concern me as well. But the Sharks, I have making the playoffs in a third place position. Next up in second place, we have the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the Golden Knights are a team who battled some issues with the salary cap early on. They had to shed some players. We saw them move out guys like Colin Miller and Eric Howla. They traded Russian player Nikita Gusev because they could not get him signed. So they did lose a fair bit off the roster that way, but in return, they were able to keep everything else that they had. They were able to re-sign some of their players, including William Karlsson, to a longer-term contract as well. They're going to have a full season of Mark Stone. I do like their goaltending with Fleury and Subban. Their blue line's still pretty decent as well, even without Colin Miller. He wasn't really getting a ton of playing time last year anyway, so really overall it's not a huge loss. When you look at the forward group, though, like I said, Mark Stone being there for the whole year is going to be huge. I've got Max Pacioretty pegged as being a strong bounce-back player this year as well. A full season with Mark Stone potentially as a line mate is certainly going to help him. Whoever Mark Stone plays with always gets better. He makes everybody around him better, makes them more productive, and regardless of who that's going to be, if they go with the Stone, Stastny, Pacioretty line, then those two guys are going to be more productive. If they seem to mix up the other line, maybe playing with William Karlsson, then he's just going to help Bill be more productive as well. Either way, Mark Stone's going to be a huge impact on this roster, and I think they're just a very deep, strong team with a solid foundation here, and I see them finishing in second place. Next up, we have the Calgary Flames in first place, who once again I think are going to win this division. Of course, they won last year and had a disastrous playoff run, so that's something they're hoping to correct and make a little bit further, deeper into the playoffs. But as far as the regular season goes, I see the Flame repeating as division champions. Now, of course, in the goaltending situation is a little different. Mike Smith's no longer in the picture. David Riddick is going to step up and play even more, and I think he should have been the goalie playing in the playoffs last year, and that might have made a difference, but I guess we'll never know if that would have or not. But for the coming year, Big Save Dave is going to be a huge impact player on this roster. Of course, they just recently came to terms with Matthew Tkachuk on a nice bridge contract as well. So the forward group is largely the same. They shed themselves of James Neal, but now they got Milan Lucic. So bad contract for bad contract. But overall, really, I think Lucic can give them a whole different element that they didn't have before. So maybe Lucic can be just as effective and important player. Considering what they get out of James Neal, I don't see Lucic being a worse fit. He's going to give them a whole different element than they had before. And that top line of Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm should continue clicking at a high rate. They were one of the NHL's top lines last year. Their blue line's really solid as well. They will have an injury to Valimaki to start the year, which is a little bit of a blow, but either way, they got some pretty good blue liners. And overall, I really like the depth of this team. I think they're ready and poised to take some more steps forward and hold on to that division title for one more year. So those are my predictions for the Pacific Division for the 1920 season. Of course, as always, like I said, let me know what your thoughts are on my predictions. Let me know how you think these teams are going to finish down below. This is strictly an opinion-based project here, so there really is no wrong answer. So let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll discuss further in the comment section. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications, and stay tuned for tomorrow's video, which is going to be the 2019 Stanley Cup playoff predictions. We're going to show you who I think are all the playoff teams and how they're going to fare round by round, all down to giving you my Stanley Cup winner for 2020. So that's coming tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time.